Transport Department is yet to confirm whether it will appeal a Pretoria High Court ruling declaring the AARTO Amendment Act unconstitutional and invalid. The law would have seen motorists have their licenses suspended if they accumulated 15 demerit points. The organization Undoing Tax Abuse approached the court opposing the act. AARTO also wanted the Road Traffic Infringement Agency to establish an appeal tribunal which would allow motorists to challenge fines in court. The court directed the Transport Minister and agency to pay AARTO's legal costs. While the Transport Minister, Fikile Mbalula, says he's studying the judgment.
The Minister of Transport, Minister Fikile Mbalula, has noted the judgment handed down by Judge Basson at the Pretoria High Court on 13 January 2022, which judgment declares the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act and its subsequent amendment unconstitutional and invalid. The Minister is studying the judgment and will be guided by legal advice on whether to appeal the judgment or not.
For more on the story, we're joined by Robert Chandler, who is the Southern African Institute of Driving Instructors. He's with that organization. Mr. Chandler, good evening, and thanks for your time. Even though part of the AARTO Act and the associated amendments was to try and decriminalize the traffic offences that motorists get, it was also to ensure that the measures to punish motorists for bad behavior on the roads would be a lot more dire. What happens now that it's been thrown out of court? Effectively, what is the stick that officials have?
I don't think it's pretty much towards what stick do they have. I think we have a general breakdown of law enforcement on the ground. We're coming up with all these wonderful IT systems and like this particular one, where they basically want to deal with road safety matters by remote control. It's not going to work. The other thing is the way it's been set up. It's almost as if the Department of Transport is intent on creating revenue-generating sources, which is not their job. I think they need to look more towards actually getting very serious about road safety, because that is the aim, that is their job, that is their mandate. It's road safety, and they failed dismally. They are so into setting up these various systems that they've forgotten to actually do their primary responsibility.
When you talk about the breakdown in policing on the ground, effectively, what are you saying? Are you saying that it needs more than just the occasional roadblocks and checking motorist licenses and license disc and roadworthiness to tackle the problem that South Africa has?
We definitely do. We need a decent strategy that actually goes out there and approaches the systems. We're lacking in road safety education. That is a primary responsibility, road safety education. Law enforcement comes second or third, maybe even fourth, when you failed on all the others. But we haven't even attempted that. We've got a problem with our licensing systems. We're trying to enforce laws when we don't have enough people on the ground, and yeah, I'm talking about law enforcement. We don't have proper systems to evaluate and test people for their driving licenses. We don't have proper systems in place to ensure that vehicles are roadworthy, that vehicles are not fiddled with, that vehicles are not modified illegally. There's all these things, but we put in so much effort, so much time, and so much money into the enforcement side of it, where we can generate income. That's not the purpose of that's not the mandate of the Department of Transport. They should be out there doing road safety education, monitoring, and then obviously boots on the ground enforcement. You don't see a traffic officer these days on the ground. You can drive around the town. I live in Port Elizabeth region, Gqeberha region. And if I see a traffic officer once a month, I consider I'm doing well. There's just, if you do not have visible enforcement, you do not have real-time enforcement, you're wasting your time. And these things like AARTO and things like that, I'm sorry, we're looking at revenue generation.
Robert, it's almost become acceptable, well, not acceptable, but it certainly has been normalized that when one goes to get their license, the expectation most times should be that you're going to have to pay a fee in order to secure getting that license. What do you think that has contributed to then the rate of safety that we have on our roads? Because while there could be people who are well deserving of those licenses, there are others who are not.
No, definitely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, the breakdown has come. There isn't adequate enforcement. There isn't adequate supervision. We've got provincial inspectorates that are meant to ensure that the standards at testing stations are up to speed. We've got a national inspectorate, and they're basically toothless tigers. They're paper tigers that run around there, and what happens on the ground is not monitored. So yes, these type of things are going to happen. We can talk about corruption. We can talk about false licenses. If we don't have the infrastructure in place to address it, we're going to just carry on, and we're going to perpetuate the problem. So I think the Department of Transport should actually sit down and really review their strategy and move away from this intensive approach towards enforcing something. You know, we've got numerous things that are out there that have fallen by the wayside because there's no enforcement. We can legislate all we want to. We're not going to solve the problem until we actually educate and monitor and enforce. Then we can start talking about all these crazy systems.
From the onset of, you know, this idea around AARTO, there were already those who were challenging it and questioned the extent to which it would be legal and lawful to operate such a system, at least as intended. But, you know, we've seen this court fight get to where it is. In the process, years have gone by, policy development has taken place, but part of it also seems that it is time that is lost. I mean, what could be done concurrently while whatever, you know, legislation is being amended or be reworked? What are the practical things that you think could also be done in the meantime?
No, there's a lot of things could be done in the meantime. But like I say, let's get down boots on the ground. Let's revisit the basics to get people educated. You know, you don't see the education of people anymore. In terms of road safety, you don't see it. You know, I remember huge programs being out there that was supplied by the old National Road Safety Council. There's nothing out there now. Scholar patrols, all these basics. You're not going to, if you take a kid and try and educate them about road safety at 18 years old, you're already 15 years too late. They've already adopted an attitude. They've been exposed to everything that's happening out there. You need to start earlier. We need to go back to the basics, get into the schools, teach the kids young, and then progress it through and take these programs. We need to revisit the testing. And when I talk about the testing, I don't mean as everybody runs around and points a finger at the K53 system. There's nothing wrong with the K53 system. It's the way it's applied. It's the way it's taught. It's the way it's interpreted. We just need to address that. And those are quick fixes. They're not big problems. But the biggest problem that we have to solve is the will of the Department of Transport and the provincial authorities to actually take these national inspectorates and actually give them teeth and let them actually enforce, because it doesn't help punishing a guy, but you allow all these other things to happen and perpetuate the problem. So no, I'm very glad that this is the outcome. I think a lot of us have, ever since they started talking about the AARTO Act back in the 1990s and beyond that, we've all been saying it's not the way to go.
Robert
Chandler? Just doesn't deal with the right things.
Let's leave it there for tonight. He is with the Southern African Institute of Driving Instructors.